In this video, we're going to show you to install the brake caliper on your Nissan Frontier located behind your rear wheels. Using a 21mm socket, go ahead and loosen and remove your lug nuts. Go ahead and grab your wheel and set it aside. With the wheel off, we want to go ahead and remove our brake caliper and brake caliper bracket. We're going to use our 14mm socket to loosen these two slider pin bolts. Now, if the bolt is spinning with the pin inside here, you can use a wrench on the inside to hold that. In our case here, the bolt is spinning freely and coming out. There you go. Go ahead and set that aside. Let's go ahead and get the upper one. Now, when we remove this caliper, we are going to want to go ahead and secure it. We don't want to have this hanging by the flex hose here. You can damage the flex hose and cause further issues. Remove that bolt. I'm going to use a small pry bar here to go ahead and work this off. You can bring this up on top. Set it up here. It's always a good idea to go ahead and use like a securing strap or something to hold that up in place so that doesn't fall down. Now, our caliper bracket itself is held on by two 19mm bolts, one here, one up top. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove these. Now, removing the bottom one first, because once you remove the upper one, the caliper bracket will normally want to just fall off. So for safety reasons, we like to just get that bottom one out first. There's that lower bolt. And do the same for the upper. When you're doing this here, you want to be careful of the ABS wire. You don't want to keep on hitting that with your ratchet and damage this wire. You're going to end up with an ABS light on the dash and you'll have to replace that. So just be careful, be conscious of that. You may be sitting beside the vehicle while doing this, so you're going to use the ratchet going upward. Keep you away from that ABS wire. You can see that caliper bracket popping off. Also be aware, the brake rotor will now be loose, so be careful of that as well. Remove that bolt. Carefully work the bracket off, sliding that off of the rotor. There we have it. If your brake pads are still stuck in there, go ahead and knock those out. Now, before we install this unit, we want to go ahead and disassemble this here. We're going to do that by using our 14mm socket, loosen and remove our slider pin bolts. Set that aside. We want to now go ahead and remove our slide pins. Hold the rubber boot, grab the slider pin, and just gently twist and work that out. Now at this point here, we can see that there's just a little bit of grease on this here, not a lot. We don't want too much, but we do want to make sure that this entire pin is evenly coated. So go ahead and use some silicone paste for your brakes. Work that around and work that back in. Push that in until you feel the rubber boot pop onto the base. Repeat for this side here. Now this one has a rubber sleeve. You want to make sure that that is coated as well. Remember, not too much. And go ahead and work that in. Bottom that out, spin it around, make sure that is working properly. Our next step is to go ahead and install our pad slides here. Once again, use a little bit of the silicone paste. Put it where the slides are supposed to go. Spread that around evenly. You do not want a lot here. You just want a thin coat. Go ahead and take your slider, line that up, push that on. You're going to feel it pop in and lock into place. Let's go ahead and do the same on this side. Now when installing this here, you want to look on the inside and make sure that the slide is bottomed out on both sides. Wipe out any excess grease that you might have squeezed out. Another key thing you want to pay attention to is the placement of these slides. Now sometimes when you install these, they can get pushed either outward or inward. And what happens is that if this is too far one way or the other, the brake rotor actually goes between here. And the slide itself can come in contact with the brake rotor, causing a horrendous squeak and squeal. Well, at that point there, you're gonna have to disassemble everything on the vehicle to go ahead and redo these. So when installing this, it does make a difference where you put these in. Once you press this in, make sure that the slides are even with the insides of the caliper bracket. Check that on both the top and bottom. As long as they're flush and even, we're ready to install. Install your bracket. We're gonna get our upper bolt started first. That way we can let it drop down. Once you have both of these started, let's go ahead and tighten them down. Install your inboard pad. Inboard pad has a squeak tab on it. Go ahead and slide that into place. Outboard pad does not have the squeak tab on it. Push it in an angle, slide it in. remove our securing strap here. And lower this down. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove this bolt. Now there will be brake fluid that comes out, so make sure that you have a catch can or something to capture that brake fluid. We use a 12mm socket, loosen and remove this bolt. Now brake fluid is going to come out. Watch for that. The other thing we want to pay attention to is when we remove this here, there should be a copper washer on both sides of this hose. So there's one on the bolt side, the other one had come off with the caliper itself. Take the new bolt, install a copper washer on there, feed that through, install the new copper washer on the other side. Go ahead and line this up. Get that bolt started in there. Make sure that this pin goes into the caliper. Use our 11mm for the new bolt. Tighten that down. I'm going to clean that. We're also going to give it a quick spray with some solvent to clean up any residual brake fluid on this unit. Bring this around. And push your slide pins in. Get our bolt started on here. Let's go ahead and snug down our bolts. We're using a 14mm socket for this. Torque down our caliper bracket bolts to 63 foot-pounds. Torque down our slide pin bolts to 20 foot-pounds. Torque down our flex hose bolt to 13 foot-pounds. On the inboard portion of your brake caliper, you're going to notice this piece right here. Well, this is your bleeder screw. I'm going to use a small pick. Go ahead and pop off this rubber cap. Using a 10mm box wrench, let's go ahead and loosen this. And what we're doing here is we're waiting for the air to come out of this as the brake fluid comes through the flex hose and fills up the piston and burps out here. At this point here, we don't see any more air bubbles popping out of this here. Let's go ahead and snug this down. Wipe that down. Install the rubber cap. Now once you've done the burping here of getting the air bubbles out, you want to go ahead and check the brake fluid underneath the hood. Open up your hood, locate your master cylinder and the fluid reservoir right here on the driver's side. We're going to spray this down with some solvent to clean this up first. We want to do this so that we don't drop any debris into the reservoir. Now you want to make sure before you open this up, you have the proper brake fluid that is recommended for this vehicle. Go ahead and twist open your cap. Now you can see the brake fluid level right here. It is underneath the max line. So go ahead and use the brake fluid that you have. Fill that up to the max line. Install the cap. Your next step is to hop into the vehicle. Pump up that brake pedal. If the brake pedal feels mushy, you want to go ahead and start the complete vehicle brake bleeding process. If the brake pedal feels fine, go ahead and pop that wheel on, take it for a road test, and at that point there, you're all set. Good, take your wheel, line it up. Set that into place. Go ahead and line up your center cap if you have this. Once you have all of those started by hand, let's go ahead and snug them down. Go ahead and torque down your lug nuts to 98 foot-pounds. Ideally, you want to go ahead and try and do this in a crisscross pattern.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.